Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests. When I was about 15 years old, my grandmother was very sick, and my father brought her to our house so she can recover. In retrospect, that didn't work very well. You see, she lived all her life in the village, working on the land. And we were living in a big city, a concrete jungle with very little green spaces. I remember one day, I saw her on a balcony with her fingers deeply dug into the soil of a flower pot. She looked at me and said, "How can you live this way, without touching a soil every day?" I didn't get a full meaning of what she said on that day, but I never forgot that moment. My grandmother was a very simple woman, but she had this deep connection to the nature. Connection that we are increasingly losing as we are replacing our lived experiences with the virtual ones. What my grandmother intuitively knew, the science is now able to prove. Spending time in nature has extremely beneficial effects on our mental and physical health. Independent studies from the universities of Glasgow and Essex show that spending time near green spaces can have a number of positive effects. It decreases the mental stress. It can act as a prevention of a number of diseases, including depression and migraines. It also can improve school performance. It can improve recovery in hospitals. And it can even decrease violent behaviors in neighborhoods when that behavior is common. Academic research also shows that spending only 3 days immersed in nature can trigger complete mental reset and increase creativity for over 50%. And to that fact, I can attest personally. Trust me, no amount of coffee and energy drinks can provide the same effect as rolling hills of rural Bosnia.
Wow.
So why do we respond to nature in this way? Well, in a recent series of articles in National Geographic, they argue that this is because we have evolved in nature. Over 200,000 years of our evolution, we were living in close proximity to the nature. So our senses got accustomed to the sights, to sounds, to movement, and our brain doesn't see them as distractions and can focus on problem solving, which is needed for our everyday life. But that is not the case in urban environment, where we've been living for what, 200 years? A tiny speck on our long evolutionary line. In fact, their brain has to work really hard to put aside these distractions of modern life, like phone calls, even people on the streets, coffee shops, and it finds difficult to focus. It is actually this prolonged management of distractions that is causing this stress and mental fatigue. And the easiest way, simple way to address it is to go to the nature. Yet, most people would still prefer to take the pill. When I was a child, maybe like many of you, I really enjoyed roaming on the hills of my grandmother's village. But we all know that today kids are roaming much more TV channels and internet websites, right, than playing outside. I have actually read recently in The Guardian that 3/4 of UK children spend less time outdoors than prison inmates. Wow. That's true. And there's many reasons for them, 3 of them being shrinking of the green spaces. The second one is the fact that there's so much more digital content that is very attractive to them. But we also change the way how we behave as parents. Parents are today much more afraid that something can happen to their kids, especially outside. Even though, historically looking, our kids are probably growing up in the safest environment that we ever knew. But that is not all. There's another thing. If you ask these parents, they would tell you they want their kids to be fit, to eat healthy, and also to spend time in the nature. But then when that doesn't happen, the same parents, comfortably sitting in their cars, deeply immersed in their digital content, would tend to blame the perils of the modern times. But it doesn't work that way, right? The truth is, the adults are no better than kids. They lost the connection with the nature. What used to be a simple fact of life now has to be deliberately acquired, and we are not adjusting well. We are in the increased threat to evolve into Homo digitalis, and that's why my grandmother's words are more important than ever. How can we? Why should we continue to live this way when there is the easiest, cheapest, tastiest medicine for happiness and well-being just a short stroll away, at least here in Cyprus? So my fellow Toastmasters, I'm going to challenge you tonight to taste that medicine. Leave your cars behind. Move away from your screens. Step out of the coffee shops and spend that 3 days in a beautiful nature of this island. Replace that coffee break with a stroll around the Prodoromos Park. The Sunday visit to the mall with the Hyperproders. And can we please swap this basement in which we're having these meetings every time with the star-lit sky of Alcalasas Park? Remember, spending time in nature is not only going to make us less stressed, happier, and more creative. It is also help us to transfer these benefits and caring for the nature to the next generation. At least that's what we own. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.